Part 1. The Lonely Man Amidst Glamour. Ethan Cooper, 35, sat silently in the luxurious office on the top floor of the building that bore his name. The lights from the surrounding skyscrapers shimmered in red and green hues of Christmas, but their glow could not dispel the darkness within him. Outside, the city was immersed in a festive atmosphere, but for Ethan, Christmas only stirred memories he had always wanted to forget. From a young age, Christmas was not a season of joy or reunion for Ethan, but a series of painful memories. His parents, both busy and emotionally distant, frequently argued, especially during the holidays. While other children eagerly unwrapped gifts and gathered with family, Ethan would retreat to a corner of the room, trying to ignore the shouting echoing from the living room. He vividly remembered Christmas when he was 8. His mother quietly prepared dinner while his father was nowhere to be found, lost in his work. "We'll eat when your dad comes home," his mother said, but that dinner never happened. The Christmas tree was sparsely decorated with dimly blinking lights, and the only gift he received was a cheap toy car his mother had hastily bought from a nearby store. It wasn't because she didn't love him, but because she was too exhausted to care. At 12, the painful memories became even more deeply ingrained. That was the first time his parents tried to appear normal during Christmas dinner. They laughed and talked as if nothing had happened. And for a fleeting moment, Ethan thought that things might change. But as soon as dinner was over, they pulled him aside and announced that they were getting a divorce. That night, under the blinking lights of the Christmas tree, Ethan sat alone, staring at the unopened presents, unable to hold back his tears. From then on, every Christmas became a cruel reminder of his misfortune. As he grew up, Ethan tried to build a life that left no room for those memories. He threw himself into his work, achieving successes others could only dream of. But success couldn't heal the wounds in his heart. Despite having everything, wealth, fame, and power, his heart remained empty, and Christmas was still just a season he longed to escape. This year was no exception. Sitting in his office, Ethan stared at the glass of red wine on the table, its bitterness mirroring the loneliness he felt. The crowds on the street seemed even busier, the distant laughter and chatter only amplifying his emptiness. Leaning back in his chair, Ethan closed his eyes, trying to push away the painful memories. But they always returned. For Ethan, Christmas was not a warm holiday, but a season of unending sorrow, a season of wounds he had never found a way to heal. Part 2. The Woman Who Failed in Love. Sophia Green, 28, worked at a small cafe tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. She had bright eyes and a gentle smile, but behind her radiant exterior lay a heart that had endured many wounds. Sophia once believed in love, thinking that as long as she lived sincerely, happiness would find her. But life didn't unfold as she had hoped. Sophia's past relationships all ended in disappointment. She always gave her heart fully to the men she loved, only to discover that they saw her as a temporary choice, a stopover when they felt empty. They adored her smile, but none stayed long enough to witness her tears. She became the one to fill the void in their lives, but once they found what they needed, she was left behind. Most recently, Sophia had devoted 3 years of her youth to a man she thought would be her safe haven. But on a cold winter evening, he confessed that he had fallen for someone else, leaving her in a dark, chilly room with pain and unanswered questions. After that, Sophia vowed that she would no longer trust in love so easily. Despite her emotional scars, Sophia refused to let them rob her of her optimism. She reminded herself that life wasn't solely about love. Instead of seeking happiness from others, she began focusing on creating joy for herself and those around her. She continued to smile, but now it wasn't for anyone else. It was because she wanted to live better. During the holidays, especially Christmas, Sophia often participated in charity events. She loved the feeling of bringing joy to others, even if it was just through small gifts or a warm meal for the homeless. To her, seeing the happiness in their eyes helped her forget her own sadness. Those moments reminded her that life still held many beautiful things as long as she kept striving forward. Sophia no longer pinned her hopes on love as she once did, but she believed that one day life would compensate her for what she had lost. Until then, she chose to move forward slowly, living each day fully for herself. In Sophia's world, Kindness and sincerity were the guiding lights that helped her hold on to her faith in a brighter future. Part 3. A chance encounter on the street. On Christmas Eve, the city sparkled with lights, and the festive atmosphere filled every corner. But for Ethan, the glamour only highlighted his loneliness. Leaving his office with aimless steps, he didn't know where he was going. He just wanted to escape the suffocating emptiness weighing on his heart. As he walked through bustling main streets, past brightly lit storefronts and streams of people, Ethan felt like an outsider in the world. He kept moving, letting his feet lead the way. Soon he found himself on a smaller, quieter street, made warmer by the soft glow of twinkling lights strung across old windows. At a corner, Ethan noticed a small crowd gathered around a modestly decorated truck. The atmosphere here was entirely different, not the loud chatter of parties, but a heartfelt warmth from people sharing simple Christmas gifts with one another. Ethan paused as his eyes were drawn to a young woman wearing a green sweater, standing out amidst the crowd. She was carefully handing out packages to the homeless, her gentle smile radiating warmth that seemed to brighten everything around her. Each gift came with a kind word, a nod, or sometimes a few sincere questions. He couldn't look away. There was something special about her, a warmth he had never encountered before. A strange but comforting feeling began to stir in his chest, compelling him to stop and watch. At that moment, an elderly man stumbled forward to receive his gift, but accidentally dropped his bag. Almost instinctively, Ethan stepped forward, bent down, and picked up the bag to hand it back to him. "Thank you," a soft voice spoke beside him. Ethan looked up and met the woman's gaze. Her eyes held curiosity and a hint of gratitude, as if she hadn't expected a stranger like him to help so naturally. "Are you here to help hand out gifts?" she asked, her gentle smile still lingering on her lips. Ethan hesitated, feeling a strange sense of awkwardness at being addressed this way. "No, I was just passing by," he replied, his voice slightly unsure. Sophia, the young woman, smiled at the honesty in his response. "If you have time, we could always use an extra pair of hands," she said, her voice carrying an irresistible sincerity. Under the soft golden glow of the streetlights, her gaze and words left Ethan feeling unable to refuse. He nodded even though he wasn't entirely sure why he agreed. This was the first time he had done something so unplanned. Together with Sophie, Ethan started handing out the last of the gifts. He listened to her as she spoke to the homeless, each word imbued with genuine care and compassion, something he had never seen in anyone else. In those brief moments, her smile and the way she treated others made Ethan feel as if a layer of ice within him was starting to melt. What began as a solitary and aimless Christmas Eve for Ethan transformed into a meaningful moment. He couldn't quite explain the feeling, but he knew that this woman, with her gentle smile, had done something extraordinary. She had soothed the hidden pain in his heart. Part 4. The Transformation. Since the evening he met Sophia by chance, her image lingered constantly in Ethan's mind. He couldn't forget the gentleness in her eyes and the sincerity in her smile, something he hadn't seen in anyone for years. It seemed Sophia was the first person to see him, not as a successful millionaire, but as an ordinary man. That warmth made him, for the first time in years, want to break down the emotional walls he had built around himself. The next morning, Ethan decided to visit Sophia's cafe. He found his way to the small corner shop, where the sunlight filtered through the glass windows, filling the space with a sense of peace. Sophia stood behind the counter, busy making coffee for customers. When she saw him, she paused briefly, but quickly offered a smile. "Hello," Sophia said, her voice gentle but unable to hide her curiosity. "I didn't expect to see you here." Ethan tried to appear relaxed, though he felt a bit awkward inside. "Hi. Actually, I heard the coffee here is very good, so I thought I'd come back to try it again." Sophia laughed softly, placing a freshly made cup of coffee on the counter. "So what would you like to try today? I'll make you my favorite." "You decide," Ethan replied, watching her intently as she began to prepare his drink. "I don't think you'll disappoint me." Sophia tilted her head and smiled. "You trust me that much?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. He shrugged and smiled faintly. "Maybe I trust you more than I thought." Ethan's visits to the cafe became more frequent. At first, their conversations were casual, but over time, they delved deeper into more meaningful topics. One quiet afternoon, when the cafe was nearly empty, Ethan finally opened up about the pain of his childhood. The Christmas night filled with arguments that haunted him for years. "When I was a child, Christmas wasn't a time of joy for me," Ethan said, his gaze drifting into the distance. "That night, my parents had a terrible fight. Right in front of the Christmas tree, they announced they were getting a divorce. I remember sitting there all night, staring at the blinking lights on the tree, wondering why everything had fallen apart." Sophia listened silently, her hand gently resting on the coffee cup in front of her. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. Those memories must be hard to overcome." Ethan smirked bitterly. "I thought that if I never opened up, no one could hurt me. But the more I avoided it, the lonelier I felt." Sophia nodded slightly, her eyes filled with understanding. "I've felt the same way," she said, her voice soft like a whisper. "After failed relationships, I started to believe that maybe love wasn't meant for me. But then I realized that isolating myself only made it worse." Ethan looked at Sophia, his gaze softening. "You're unlike anyone I've ever met. Honest, sincere, and never pretending to be someone you're not." Sophia smiled. "Then I think we can help each other. You could start by joining me at a charity gift drive. I could always use an extra pair of hands." Ethan hesitated at first, but the enthusiasm in Sophia's eyes made it impossible to refuse. The gift drive took place the following evening on a quiet street. Standing side by side, Sophia and Ethan handed out warm meals and blankets to the homeless. Sophia spoke to each person with her natural kindness, while Ethan, initially awkward, gradually found himself at ease. "Do you do this often?" Ethan asked during a short break, sipping some hot tea. Sophia nodded. "I do it every Christmas. Seeing them smile makes me feel like I'm making a difference." Ethan looked at Sophia, his eyes reflecting admiration. "You're truly remarkable, Sophia. I don't think I've ever met anyone who lives for others as much as you do." Sophia chuckled softly, her eyes warm and kind. "Sometimes helping others is a way to heal ourselves. What about you, Ethan? When was the last time you felt truly happy?" Her question made Ethan pause. He didn't answer immediately, but deep down, he knew that this moment, standing beside Sophia, was the first time in years he had felt a small yet genuine happiness. From then on, their meetings were no longer by chance but became an unspoken habit. Ethan began to open up more, while Sophia slowly regained her trust and love. Each moment they spent together, whether distributing gifts, chatting at the cafe, or taking walks under the streetlights, helped bridge the gap between them and heal the wounds they had carried. They realized that the scars of their past had brought them closer, like pieces of a puzzle completing a beautiful picture. Part 5. A Meaningful Christmas. 1 year after their fateful meeting, Ethan and Sophia had become an indispensable part of each other's lives. They were not just companions, but also healers of each other's wounds. On Christmas Eve, Sophia unexpectedly suggested something Ethan had always avoided: returning home to spend Christmas with his family. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Ethan asked, his eyes hesitant as he looked at Sophia. They were sitting together beside the small Christmas tree Sophia had decorated herself. Sophia took his hand, her gaze filled with encouragement. "Ethan, they are your family. I believe it's time you face this fear. Besides, I want to meet them, the people who raised the man I love." Sophia's words filled Ethan with warmth and a newfound confidence. He nodded, though a trace of uncertainty still lingered. "All right, then we'll go," he said, gently squeezing her hand. That evening, as Ethan and Sophia arrived at his parents' cozy home, Ethan's emotions were in turmoil. Standing in front of the house, adorned with bright Christmas lights, he felt his heart pounding. Memories from the past washed over him like a tidal wave. Arguments, tense Christmas nights, and the painful moment of separation. He took a deep breath, as if bracing himself to step into a place both familiar and foreign. Sophia, noticing the hesitation in his eyes, gently placed her hand on his back. "I'm here," she whispered, her voice soft yet reassuring. "You don't have to face this alone." Ethan nodded, mustering his courage to knock on the door. When the door opened and his mother, Margaret, appeared with a radiant smile, he froze momentarily. She stepped forward and hugged him tightly, without a moment's hesitation. The warmth of his mother's embrace took Ethan by surprise. How long had it been since he felt such unconditional love? His heart seemed to pause, and the emotional walls he had built over the years began to tremble. Inside the house, his father, Richard, waited with a calm expression and a gentle smile. Despite the family's past turmoil, his parents now exuded a strange sense of peace. Ethan felt something stir within him, a faint glimmer of hope that perhaps families could truly change. "This is Sophia," Ethan introduced, his voice tender as he looked at her. "The person who helped me understand the true meaning of Christmas." Sophia bowed politely, her sincere smile instantly winning over both Margaret and Richard. "Hello, Sophia," Margaret said, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you for bringing Ethan back to us." Those words lifted an invisible weight from Ethan's chest. He hadn't expected his mother to say such things, nor had he realized the profound connections Sophia had created between him and his family. Throughout the dinner, Ethan initially felt out of place. He sat quietly, observing everything around him as though he were a spectator in his own family story. The laughter, the warmth between Sophia and his parents left him both confused and intrigued. This was his family, the people he had distanced himself from, yet they seemed so different now. Slowly, the sense of estrangement gave way to curiosity. When Sophia joined his mother in the kitchen to prepare dessert, Ethan stayed behind with his father. Richard began recounting stories of the past, of mistakes, losses, and how he and Margaret had found peace together. Ethan listened silently, saying nothing, but a peculiar feeling began to rise within him: forgiveness. He no longer felt anger or resentment as he once did. Instead, he realized that everyone deserves the chance to heal and mend their mistakes. As the dinner drew to a close, Ethan looked around the living room. Sophia was smiling as she chatted with his mother, while his father relaxed with a glass of wine. The atmosphere was filled with warmth and laughter. A wave of emotion suddenly swept over Ethan. This was no longer the house burdened with painful memories he once remembered. It was now a place of love and reunion. His heart, frozen by old wounds, began to thaw. He realized that he had not only found peace with his family, but also within himself. It was Sophia's gentle encouragement that had led him to this moment, a moment where he finally allowed himself to let go and feel. "Ethan," his mother called softly, pulling him from his thoughts. "I'm so glad you're here." Ethan smiled faintly, a smile he hadn't expected to wear on Christmas Eve. "I'm glad to be here too, Mom," he replied, his voice deep but genuine. A little while later, Ethan stood up, gently tapping his wine glass to draw everyone's attention. The room fell silent, and the twinkling lights of the Christmas tree reflected in everyone's eyes. Sophia looked up, her gaze filled with curiosity. Ethan took a deep breath, his eyes soft as they met Sophia's. "Sophia," he began, his warm voice resonating in the quiet room, "you've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You've taught me that wounds don't have to stop us from being happy. They can lead us to someone who truly understands us." Sophia froze for a moment, her eyes beginning to glisten with tears. "I don't just want to share a Christmas season with you," Ethan continued, his gaze shining like the lights on the tree, "but the rest of my life. Will you marry me?" The room seemed to pause for a moment. Sophia raised her hand to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. She nodded, her voice trembling. "Yes, I will." Cheers and blessings erupted from everyone. Margaret embraced Sophia warmly, while Richard patted Ethan's shoulder with pride. Ethan stepped forward, placing a sparkling ring on Sophia's finger, and they held each other in pure joy. That Christmas Eve was filled with laughter, warm lights, and the joy of reunion. Ethan realized that, thanks to Sophia, he had not only found love, but also rediscovered his family and the true meaning of Christmas. It was no longer a holiday he wanted to forget, but a new beginning, full of hope and love. Part 6. A New Journey. After their warm yet simple wedding, Ethan and Sophia embarked on a new journey filled with grand plans, not just for themselves, but for their community. Ethan, leveraging his vast wealth and influence, began investing in philanthropic projects. He founded a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing shelter and reintegration support for the homeless, inspired by the charity drives he and Sophia had participated in. Sophia, with her unwavering passion for coffee, transformed her small cafe into a special gathering place. She created a warm, welcoming space where anyone, regardless of their background or circumstances, could find comfort in a cup of coffee. Sophia's Cafe was not just a place for drinks, but a hub where people shared stories, organized donation drives, and spread love and kindness. "Do you think what we're doing is enough?" Sophia asked one morning as she and Ethan sat on their porch, watching the soft snowflakes fall. Ethan placed his hand over hers, his eyes filled with determination. "It will never be enough, but as long as we start, the good will continue to grow." Together, they fully immersed themselves in every project. Sophia organized skill-building workshops for homeless youth, while Ethan established a scholarship fund to give underprivileged children access to education. They weren't just leaders but active participants, serving free meals, hosting inspirational workshops, and building personal connections with those they helped. Every Christmas, Ethan and Sophia hosted a large celebration at their nonprofit organization. Those who had once been helped returned as volunteers, creating an unending circle of love and support. At these gatherings, people laughed, shared meals, and told stories about how their lives had been transformed. "Look at this," Ethan said to Sophia on a Christmas evening as they stood under the twinkling lights of a large Christmas tree at the center of the organization. "All of this started with a spilled cup of coffee on the street." Sophia laughed, her eyes shining with pride and happiness. "And I think you were right to return to the cafe that day." Ethan held her hand, his voice warm and heartfelt. "It was the best decision of my life. And since then, you've made everything better." Christmas was no longer a time of pain or memories of failure. For Ethan and Sophia, it had become a symbol of love, hope, and healing. They found happiness in each other and shared it with those around them. Their story is a living testament that sometimes the most wounded hearts are the ones capable of giving the deepest love. From the pain of their past, Ethan and Sophia wrote a new, meaningful chapter, inspiring others to see that no matter what you've been through, hope is always within reach if you're willing to open your heart and give love. Thank you for listening to this story. Let us know your thoughts and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss more inspiring stories.